Okay, as
Good
you can
morning,
see,
and thank you for taking time to join us. I apologize for the delayed start. I recognize you all have busy schedules. As you all are aware, we made a change in leadership with our men's basketball program last night. And I want to make sure I thank Richard, his wife Jill, and their family for their 8 years, the commitment they gave our student athletes, our program, our fan base. I'm incredibly thankful for them and the time and effort they gave us. And, I'm excited that he's going to be named the head basketball coach at New Mexico. We learned that a little bit earlier today, and I'm excited for Richard and his family. And I know they're getting a wonderful person who cares a great deal about the student athletes and the experience of those student athletes. With that said, I'm excited about our search process as we begin that process. I feel like we have a very attractive job. We play in the best conference in America, in the Big Ten, a very competitive conference. And I feel like we have great opportunities in front of us. And we look forward to starting our national search and beginning that process to find the next great coach for the University of Minnesota men's basketball program. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Paul, and we'll welcome any questions.
Thank you, Mark. We'll start with questions now. We'll begin with Marcus Fuller from the Star Tribune.
Mark, good morning. Can you talk about the timeline of your decision? Obviously, after the season, the Big Ten tournament, when did you speak with Richard, and when did you come to this conclusion?
Yeah, good morning, Marcus, and thank you for the question. As all of you know, Richard and I have a very close relationship. I consider him a close friend, and the great thing about having that great relationship is he and I have had many conversations throughout the year. As we went down the stretch towards the end of the year, we started to have some more conversations about our program and where we wanted our program to go and what we wanted our program to be. And so I've talked to Richard a couple of times this morning. We started to talk on Friday, last Friday when we got back from Indianapolis. I was there with the women's team and the men's team for the Big Ten tournaments. So we started to talk more Friday over the weekend, and then yesterday, of course, and that's when we made the decision last night that we shared with all of you.
All right, let's go to Dave Campbell with the Associated Press.
Hey, Mark, could you clarify how this affects the buyout in his contract with him being able to get a new job right away?
Yeah, well, obviously, if you have a chance, Dave, to look at the contract, there's mitigation language in that contract, and we'll work closely with our Office of General Counsel, Doug Peterson and his team, and we'll work closely with them on the buyout, et cetera. But again, with him taking a new job, it triggers some different clauses in the contract.
We'll go to Charles Holman with the Spokesman Recorder. Charles, go ahead.
Mark, can you hear me?
I can, Charles. Good morning.
Good morning. For the last few weeks, when Coach Pitino was still on the job, mainstream media was seen to be floating up names for succession as his successor, something I don't like to do and I don't do when people have their jobs. But now the job is open. Those names, among the names, there was very few Blacks. So speaking for the Black press in our community, will your search will include Black candidates, and it will be seriously considered for this position?
Yeah, well, Charles, thank you for the question. And I miss our opportunities to have lunch together. And most definitely, Charles, I can tell you President Gable, myself, our university, we're committed to diversity, and we're committed to having a very diverse pool of coaches that we want to look at. And you all know me in the 5 years I've been here. When we start these searches for these positions, we want to cast a very wide net, and we want to cast a net that we can find the next great leader for our men's basketball program. And I can tell you, Charles, over the past year, I've had many conversations with my staff, and we talk about doing the next best right thing for Minnesota because there's so much uncertainty. You feel like the ground is shifting underneath your feet as you work your way through this past year. And so I can assure you, Charles, that we're going to be focused on having a very diverse pool of candidates. We'll have a search committee that I'll work with that will have diversity on that search committee. So again, we can find the next great leader for our student athletes on our men's basketball program.
Thank you, Mark. I hope to get together with you soon.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Charles. Let's go to Chip Scoggins with the Star Tribune.
Hey, Mark, how much will the pandemic's effect on your the department's finances impact this search in terms of who you can go after?
Yeah, good morning, Chip. Chip, great question. I can tell you, Chip, I am so grateful for President Gable. Her support has been phenomenal. Her conversations with board leadership. Chip, we feel that we have a great opportunity here at the University of Minnesota. Chip, you see firsthand Athletes Village and what this facility has turned out to be. It has given us a huge boost for our department in terms of who we go out and hire. You know, we want to be very competitive in our market. As I said earlier, we feel like we compete in the best conference in America, in the Big Ten Conference. So again, we'll be very competitive with our salary and again, to find the next best right fit for our program.
Let's go over to Joe Schmidt, KSTP.
Yes, Mark, this program hasn't won a Big Ten title since 1982. They've hired the young rising star like Pitino. They've hired a Hall of Fame coach like Tubby. What's it going to take? And is it as good a program as you say it, or good an opportunity as you say it is in a tough conference?
Yeah, good morning, Joe, and thank you for the question. You know, Joe, I've talked about this publicly. I did not come to Minnesota to be 500. I'm very aware that it's been since 1982. And there is no reason why we can't compete at a high level. You know, I've been very blessed. I had a chance to be at the University of Kentucky for 7 years, be around that basketball program. I had a chance to be around Syracuse and Coach Boeheim in that program for the 1 year I was at Syracuse. Again, I've been very fortunate to see it at a high level. And we have the pieces in place here at Minnesota. We've got great facilities. We've got Williams Arena, historic facility. And based on the calls that I started to receive last night as I was watching our men's hockey team beat Michigan in the semifinals of the Big Ten tournament, the calls that I received this morning, there's great interest in this opportunity because everything is in place. We have a great academic institution. Again, we feel very optimistic about the opportunities we have in front of us, and we'll feel like we'll get a great coach for this program.
Let's go to Rachel Blunt with the Star Tribune.
Yeah, Mark, with the possibility of having to pay some buyout money and possibly spending more money on the salary for the next coach, what is your message to the supporters of the non-revenue sports that were cut, who were told that the university couldn't afford to keep their sports?
Yeah, good morning, Rachel. Well, there are two different topics. You know, obviously, we made a very difficult decision with the reduction in sport programming, and those are recurring expenses. Obviously, with the change we're making today, we're very aware of our finances. We've been very public about those finances in our board meetings and with our supporters of all of our programs. So again, we're very mindful of where we're at financially as a department, and we'll continue to make good financial decisions that have the support of President Gable and our board leadership and our board.
Let's go over to Dave Schwartz with KARE 11.
Hey, good morning, Mark. What are some of the qualities that you're looking for in this next head coach? And considering how important recruiting is and in-state, is a Minnesota connection an absolute requirement or just something that you're looking for?
Yeah, good morning, Dave. Thank you for the question. You know, I kind of refer back to the question that Charles asked me. I think it's very important that we cast a wide net and we be very broad as we start to look at candidates. You know, as I just mentioned, I'm getting lots of phone calls. There's lots of interest in this opportunity, and I'm very excited about the calls that I've already received. You know, I think when you look at any program, whether it be men's basketball or any program that we offer here at Minnesota or across the country, you know, you look at 3 or 4 things. You know, one thing you look at is compliance. We want to make sure that we have somebody who has great integrity and does it the right way. You know, you've heard me talk before, in the state of Minnesota, doing it right matters. So we're going to find somebody that has great compliance and understanding there. You know, we talk about the academic side of it. You know, our men's basketball program, phenomenal. And we have great academic success, not only in our men's basketball program, but across all of our sports. We talk about the PR, the fundraising side of it. You know, we need somebody in here who can come in, can relate with all of you, the media, can relate with our donors, can relate with our fan base, those type of things. And then the fourth part of that is, you know, you want to look at competitive success. You know, I think we need to find somebody who has competitive success and can help us build this program. So again, we're going to look at many different factors. Obviously, we feel like we have great in-state talent with the high school basketball, the AU basketball that we have here in the state of Minnesota. And we're going to, again, try to find the best fit for our program that can bring young men into this program and can compete academically, athletically, and socially on our campus.
All right, thank you, Mark. Let's go to Daniel House. Daniel?
Hey, Mark, you mentioned getting a lot of calls for this job. What do you think makes it so appealing to outside candidates?
Good morning, Daniel. I think there's a couple things. You know, I think first off, Athletes Village. A lot of you have had a chance to see Athletes Village. You know, it's a $166 million state-of-the-art facility, a brand new basketball practice facility for our men's program. a brand new basketball facility for our women's program, our nutrition center, our academic advising in the Lindahl Academic Center. All those things are very attractive to people. And then Williams Arena, selfishly, we feel like we've got an unbelievable arena with great history, with a great fan base. So again, when I'm getting calls from people, they talk about the opportunity to compete in brand new facilities and Athletes Village and recruit to that. You talk about the academic reputation of our institution and how strong it is academically. That attracts people, and people clearly understand that we have support from President Gable and her leadership. We have support from our board. And so I think people see that we have strong alignment. We have a commitment to doing things the right way.
Go over to Andy Greeter with the Pioneer Press.
Good morning, Mark. In your statement yesterday, you talked about assessing Richard Pitino's full 8 years. What did you feel like were the main things that as to why he wasn't successful in the end?
Again, Andy, I appreciate the question. When I look at Richard, I have a great deal of respect for him. He truly is a special person and one of a kind, and I've got a great deal of respect for him. And I know he and his family are going to do wonderful things at the University of New Mexico. But when I look at Richard, if you remember when I was hired 5 years ago, I think he had 3 ADs in his first 3.5 years here. And I think if you look at the Big Ten, it's such a competitive league. And in order for us to do the things we want to do, we've got to be able to compete in our league first. And I just felt like we weren't having the success that we needed in our league first. And so that was part of the evaluation process I looked at, is that we need to find somebody that can come in here and help us compete in the Big Ten. Because if we compete in the Big Ten at a high level, we'll give ourselves an opportunity for the NCAA tournament and NCAA championships. And that's our goal.
Let's go to Hobie RT, 5'9".
Hey, Mark, thank you for taking the time this morning. I would venture to guess that some of your candidates in this pool that are showing interest are playing postseason basketball right now. Do you have a timeline of when you would like to get things done and get somebody in here to take the reins of this program?
Yeah. Good morning, Hobie. That's a great question. And I can tell you, Hobie, last night I had a chance to do a Zoom call with the men's basketball student athletes. And I'd be remiss if I didn't recognize them and how awesome they've been. Anytime you talk about a coaching transition, it creates some anxiety and uneasiness. And I enjoyed my conversation with them last night, with the basketball staff last night. And in terms of a timeline, I told them it's going to feel like an eternity. I know anytime you go through a coaching search, I still remember the very first coaching search I did the first time I was an athletic director at Boise State, and it was for our soccer program. And I remember looking at those student athletes and just seeing the anxiety they had. And I see that every time we go through this process. So Hobie, I promise you, we're going to be very efficient. We're going to do it as quickly as we can. We're going to work closely with President Gable because I value her input, her leadership, and she's a big part of this decision as we move forward. But again, we do obviously have candidates that are continuing to play right now. We want to be respectful of that and respectful of their current positions in those programs. So again, we'll be as efficient as we possibly can, and hopefully we can wrap this up in a timely manner.
We'll take just a couple more. We'll go over to Darren Wolfson with KSTP.
Mark, good morning. Thank you for doing this. If Richard makes the NCAA tournament this year, do you still make this decision? And how exactly do you explain the issues from the Michigan game on? The team played at such a high level in January, then all of a sudden it went down the drain.
Yeah, well, good morning, Doogie. It's nice to see you. Obviously, if you remember last year, this time I had a chance to sit down with Richard, Rhonda McFarland, who was here as our deputy athletic director. Her and I sat down with Richard and we talked about our expectations. And we felt like it was important to get back to the NCAA tournament, and obviously this year was such a roller coaster. I have a great deal of respect for Richard, our men's basketball team, and all of our programs who are competing right now during this pandemic. It is not easy. The testing, the travel, the protocol that we all have to follow, it's not easy. And Dewey, I'm not sure I can give you the right answer in terms of what happened down the stretch, but obviously I felt like we were not competing at the level we should be competing at. If you look at the NCAA tournament field right now, we beat several of those teams that are in the tournament, right? And I feel like we should be able to do that night in and night out. And again, as I looked at the evaluation, not only for this year, Doogie, but for the past 8 years, I just felt it was time for us to go in a different direction.
Let's go to John Krasinski with The Athletic.
Hey, Mark, thanks for doing this. Just kind of building off that a little bit, just in terms of making a decision based a little bit, at least on this year, how difficult was it to factor in everything that a coach has to deal with, that a program has to deal with in this environment? And that they did have some wins early in the season that were very good, and then some injuries may have contributed a little bit to some of the downslide down the stretch.
Yeah, good morning, and thank you for the question. I'll look at it this way. I think Richard said this. Sometimes life isn't fair. And I think if you look at all of us in the past year, dealing with this pandemic, it has not been easy for any of us. And it hasn't been easy for Richard and his program. But again, I felt like looking at the past 8 years, looking at our record in the Big Ten Conference, looking at our record in road games on the Big Ten Conference, I just felt like we had to make a change and go in a new direction. As I said before, a great deal of respect for Richard Pitino. He's one of my favorite people. I respect him. I know he's going to do wonderful things at New Mexico. But in terms of Minnesota, I just felt it was time in my heart that we needed to go in a different direction and try to find a new leader to help us accomplish the goals that I firmly believe we can accomplish here in Minnesota.
All right, over to John Shipley with the Pioneer Press.
Hi, Mark. I'm wondering if I could get back to the recruiting thing a little bit. Are you your next coach? Will you expect him to compete with Duke and Gonzaga and Wisconsin for the best talent in this state? Because Tyus Jones won a title at Duke. Jalen Suggs might win one at Gonzaga this year. Is that kind of a necessity for you to not to maybe get all these kids, but some of them?
John, thank you for the question. John, I can tell you what I love about my job. And if you talk to our staff, I think what everybody loves about our job is I'm surrounded by extremely competitive people who want to compete at the highest level. And there is no doubt that you've got to be able to recruit your in-state talent. We have wonderful talent here. And obviously when we cast this net and we look for a diverse pool of candidates, we want to find people that can recruit. They're hungry to recruit. It's the backbone of any program. Again, any program, it's the backbone of that program. And again, we want to make sure we find the right person who does it the right way and allows us to compete at a high level, which again, I firmly believe we can do here at Minnesota. There's no reason why we can't do it.
All right, I have 3 questions left, so we'll take those 3 and then we'll wrap up. We'll go back to Chip Scoggins with the Star Tribune.
Hey, Mark, in previous hires, you haven't used a search firm. Will that be the case again this time? And I think I heard you earlier talk about a search committee. Are you using some other people to kind of help you with the process?
Yeah, thank you, Chip. Yeah, our intention right now is not to use a search firm. Great deal of respect for them. They do a lot of great work, but again, we're not going to use a search firm at this time. And I have we'll work with the search committee. Obviously, that committee will be composed of a very diverse group of individuals inside our department, and I'll rely on that group to help me go through this process. And ultimately, I'll work very closely with President Gable. I can't tell you how much respect I have for her. She has seen college athletics at a high level, at her time at Missouri, at Florida State, at South Carolina, and now here at Minnesota. So she's been such a strong advocate and supporter. So we'll work closely with her in that search committee, our internal search committee, to find the right person for Minnesota.
Our final 2 questions will go to Marcus Fuller and then we'll go to Dave Campbell. So Marcus, go ahead, and then we'll finish up with Dave.
Mark, you talked about talking with the team yesterday. This is going to be a challenging offseason, obviously, with transfers. You already see a lot of them entering the portal. How important is it for you to hire the right person to retain some of this talent that obviously earlier in the year you were a top 25 team?
Yeah, Marcus, the transfer, it's the new way of college basketball and all of college athletics, and I can assure you when me and the search committee have a chance to visit with our candidates, that's going to be a question we're going to have for them. How do we navigate that? How do we work our way through that? There's many factors that are facing all of college athletics right now. And I want to make sure that we have open and honest conversations with our candidates. We get a feel about what they're looking for, how they would manage that, how we can help support and manage that on our side. So again, that's a big part of our program moving forward. But as I shared with the players last night, we have a very talented group of young men, and I'm so grateful for their hard work on and off the court, how they represent our program. I made it very clear that all eyes are going to pay attention to them and to our program as you go through this transition. And I have great confidence in them. And I just asked them for patience. I asked them as we work our way through this process that we're going to find a really solid individual that can lead this program because of all of them and how they represent Minnesota and how they'll represent Minnesota in the future.
All right, Dave Campbell, last question, sir.
Hey, Mark, you mentioned earlier you didn't come here to be part of a 500 program, and just reflecting over Richard's 8 years and also before him, you were here once before too. Why do you think that is? What has been keeping this program from getting over that hump over a couple of decades now?
You know, Dave, I'll go back to this. You mentioned my time here before. You know, I was here from 2001 to 2005 as the assistant athletic director under Joel Maturi. And I can tell you, I absolutely fell in love with this place. And I felt like we had untapped potential. And if you look across the board, again, these things don't always get talked about, but, you know, we continue to be one of the highest rated schools in the country with respect to student athlete academic success. So again, one of the highest rated public schools in the country with respect to student athlete academic success. Athletically, you know, we just had back-to-back years in the top 20 of the Directors Cup. I think last year when the pandemic struck us, we had 9 of our 10 teams that were still competing were ranked in the top 25. If you look at that, that puts us in the top 6 or 7% nationally with respect to athletic success. If you look at what we do off the court, outside the pool, off the track, through our leadership development program, through Peyton Owens, who oversees our leadership development program, and some of the wonderful things we do there, I truly feel we have the total package. And I remember when I was hired at Minnesota, again, I talked about there is no reason why we can't do those things here at Minnesota. And like when we went out and we got Coach Fleck to come here for football, he believes that. I believe that. We go out and we get Bob Motzko in hockey. We get Lindsey Whalen. We get our other coaches that we've hired. We've all talked about we can compete for championships here and we can do it at the highest level. And we're not going to make any more excuses. We're going to work hard. We're going to do things the right way. And we're going to make sure that we always represent this institution, this state in a first-class manner in everything we do. And I truly believe we do that by graduating our student athletes, where we have our highest graduation success rate ever at 94%, and we compete at a high level. So again, there is no reason why we can't do it here in Minnesota. And we have great confidence that we'll find the right coach, the right leader to help us take that next step.
Mark, I want to thank you for your time this morning. I want to thank everyone for joining us. Thank you all very much. And we appreciate you tuning in today. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paul.
Go Gophers.
Thank you.